What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today is a video I have been meaning to record for like forever. This is my new and improved thriller book recommendations. So I know you guys have wanted this for a really long time, and I know I literally have not created this video in a couple years. What have I been doing? Especially since I am like a thriller lover. That is what I mostly read. That is what I am very hardcore about. So I can't believe I've been making you guys wait this long. Okay, we have over 25 books to talk about, so we need to just go ahead and get into it. If you want to see my other thriller recommendations video, I will have it linked down below and up above for you guys, but it is a couple years old, so it's definitely gonna have older titles on it. I will warn you that I think that the books that are on my lists are definitely different than the books on other people's thriller recommendations lists, because I am a pretty unpopular opinion. So these are not as well known or all of the thriller favorites that a lot of other people are talking about. Plus, these are mostly 5 stars for me. There's a couple 4 stars that I sprinkled throughout because I thought that they were honorary mentions. They were good enough to get in this video, but I didn't want to make this video too long. But let's go ahead and get started. Okay, first up we have The Other Woman by Sandie Jones. This is a domestic thriller where it involves the mother-in-law kind of being mean to her daughter-in-law. It seems that the husband is favoring his mother, and the mother just does like really mean things to the daughter-in-law, but she finds out in the end why the mother-in-law hates her so much. Next up we have I Know Who You Are by Alice Feeney. This one is definitely hit or miss for some people. I know a lot of people didn't like the ending because it is a very dark ending, but this is about this actress who finds out that her husband is missing, but she can't exactly go to the police because she's holding secrets. But yeah, definitely the ending is one of those like shockers. I don't think that you're gonna see it coming because it's kind of messed up. Next up we have Tarryn Fisher's I Can Be a Better You. This is my favorite of Tarryn Fisher. This one follows 3 POVs, but I didn't know that actually when I first started out, so I thought it was really cool when I was like reading the story, and I was like, whoa, I get to actually hear from other people. But there's this lady that I think has like some mental disorders, and she moves next to this couple, and she kind of starts stalking them. Like, she thinks that their baby is her baby, so she's trying to like get into this marriage. She's trying to like take the husband, take the baby, take that life, and it's really crazy. It's more like a stalker-ish type of story, which I really like, and unreliable narrators, of course. Then we have Never Have I Ever by Joshilyn Jackson. I really loved this book when it came out in 2019, and this is a like blackmail story that kind of reminds me of Big Little Lies. It's about these like moms in this suburban area, and they all like go down to the basement to have their like book club and drink wine and spill secrets, but one of the new neighbors that moved in is gonna be blackmailing people with those secrets, and it's actually really good. Like, I remember the twists were crazy. Next up we have a thriller slash horror. This is The Cabinet at the End of the World by Tremblay. This does have an ambiguous ending, so definitely be careful. If you don't like those, you probably won't like this book, but this one I really like because it's like survival, end of the world. There's these like cultish people that come up to this cabin that has a husband and his husband and their daughter with them, and they're trying to like get into their house or cabin. And so it's kind of like that locked room kind of feeling, and like you're afraid that somebody's getting in and you don't want them in. It was very thrilling in my opinion. Another thriller book we have is The Grown Up. This is actually a short story by Gillian Flynn, and I loved this book. I did not realize that I was gonna love like a horror short story. I think it's like 64 pages, so not that long. It is pretty raunchy though, so I wouldn't go into it if you don't like kind of R-rated type of books. It's about a psychic who goes to this lady's house because the lady thinks that her house is haunted. I don't know, the ending is ambiguous, so like I honestly don't even know what. I think you can like just kind of read this book however you like. So part of me was like, okay, is this house haunted? Was it not haunted? Like, what's going on here? But I really loved it. I loved that it was short, to the point. There weren't a lot of descriptions, because sometimes like horror books can be like over descriptive. Really like it, definitely think that you should check it out. Okay, of course my girl Colleen Hoover has to be on here, but it's not the book that you think. All of you guys like Verity by Colleen Hoover, but that is not one of my favorites. I really love Too Late by Colleen Hoover. This is like a romance thriller, and I think it's done way better than Verity. This one is extremely dark, so make sure you check out all the trigger warnings before you go into it. There's like drug abuse, sex abuse, all this kind of stuff. Be very careful. There was definitely many times in this book though where my heart was beating and I was like, oh my gosh, this scene that Colleen Hoover wrote, like that was thrilling. Like, that's what a thriller is. Sometimes people just think that thrillers are like, oh, sure, they have like a mystery going on, but it's like, no, your heart needs to be beating. You need to be on the edge of your seat for a thriller. This book is about this girl who is in an abusive relationship, and it just like really makes you feel like you're the character that's like being abused. And like, my heart went out to a bunch of girls that obviously deal with this kind of stuff, so it really opens your eye. I really loved it, and I thought it was one of my favorite Colleen Hoover books. Okay, next up is The Lost by Natasha Preston. This is actually a young adult thriller, and again, this is like one of those like isolated, like trapped, locked room type of thrillers. So this is about like a couple teenagers, I think it's like 4 or 5 teenagers, and they all get like kidnapped in this like, it's just like this abandoned building that they go into, and they are tortured in this building. Like, nobody can find them, no one knows where they are, and they're literally being tortured by people in this cabin. It is crazy. The torture is very graphic, and I couldn't believe that this was a young adult book. I read it in one day, but it is so good. Next up is The Secret She Keeps by Michael Robothom. Now, this one came out of like left field for me, and unfortunately I can't tell you much about it because a lot of it could be a spoiler. Like, the main gist of this book is spoiler. But let's just leave you at this. What would you do if your baby was stolen from you from the hospital? I don't know what it is about thrillers, but I love thrillers that involve like missing children, missing babies, babies that are lost, stuff like that. So if you like those types of tropes, definitely go get this one. Then we have another one of my favorite tropes, which is Munchausen by proxy. This is Darling Rose Gold. And if you like the Gypsy Rose story, then this is pretty similar to it. You would probably definitely like it. So it's about Munchausen by proxy, which is where like the mom is unfortunately making the child sick on purpose. It's like a mental disorder. So really love any type of books like that. Then we have a thriller, light horror-ish type of book. This is The Invited by Jennifer McMahon. This is my first Jennifer McMahon book that I read, and I actually was very surprised at how much I loved it. If you're looking for like an actual like ghosty haunted house story, this is definitely the one that I recommend because it definitely had all of those vibes without too much description. Like, I know that a lot of people like those like eerie atmospheric books. I'm definitely not one of those people, but if you think that you want to try it out, if you don't really like those, but you kind of wanted to read a creepy book, then The Invited is definitely where it's at. It's about this like haunted land area, and so this couple is building a brand new house on this land, but a lot of like creepy things are happening, a lot of ghosty things are happening, and so they think that the land is haunted even though they're building a brand new house on it. Okay, now we're switching to polygamy. So The Wives by Tarryn Fisher. I really liked this book because of the polygamy aspect. It wasn't a full 5 stars for me, but I definitely loved that concept. I would love to see more thrillers with polygamy in them. This is about a lady who is married to this man who also goes and sees these other women on certain days. So like I think her name is like Thursday or Wednesday or something, and he goes to see these other girls like on Monday and Tuesday, and that's what their names are. At least to her they are, because she doesn't know their real names. But definitely was creeped out by this one, and I think this kind of like brought up my love of polygamy and cult books. Okay, then we have another short book. This one's called The Test by Sylvain Neuvel. This one is totally like Black Mirror. If you love sci-fi thrillers, if you love Black Mirror, you definitely have to read this short story because I had never seen something that was like totally like Black Mirror before in book forms. Because of it being a short story, there's really not much to like tell you about it because it kind of gives away a lot of it. But this is about like a citizenship test that people have to take in order to like become a citizen, I think in like Britain or whatever, and it's like 25 questions. And I know it sounds like weird, but just trust me on this one. Okay, then we have kind of more of a horror book. This is The Long Walk by Stephen King. Now this one is definitely very gruesome and again, very thrilling. And this one really just kind of gave me like anxiety over death and dying. This is a torture book at its finest. And it's about all of these boys. I think it's like 100 boys that go on this walk, and the last one that's standing is the one that wins. And so you're like, you literally die, because there's no other option. Like if you like back out of it, you get shot to death. Otherwise, you're just like torturing yourself, like walking and walking and walking. You have to like poop while you walk. Like you literally have to do so much while you're walking. If you want a horror book that's like disturbing, disgusting, makes you like fear death, that's the one. Okay, next up is The Last Mrs. Parrish by Liv Constantine. I loved this book. It was a domestic thriller, kind of like stalker-ish too. So it's about this lady who like has everything, perfect husband, perfect life and all that. And then this other lady who wants all of what that first lady has and like what she's doing to get it. But there's like so many twists that you don't see coming. Loved it, one of my favorite thrillers. Another Munchausen by proxy thriller, this is Saving Megan by DJ Palmer. And this one also follows that Munchausen by proxy like theme. And it's about this girl who is constantly sick and none of the doctors can figure out what's wrong with her. Now, I would have rated this 5 stars. I loved so much of it, but the ending was definitely not what I had expected it to be. I wanted it to turn out something different. So it did only get 4 stars for me, but I think it's well worth reading if you love that Munchausen by proxy theme. Okay, going a little bit more into like cultish and like very dark themes is The Roanoke Girls. Now, I loved this book. It definitely was not something that I expected to like, but it has very dark themes. So definitely be careful when you're reading it. It is not what it seems like. It is very inappropriate, has these cultish vibes to it. Will say that this one doesn't have like a lot of twists and turns. Like by the 40-page mark, you kind of know the theme of the book and what's going down. But I think because I love those themes, like I love those cultish themes and inappropriate themes, so I was just like, I was there for it. I was in it. I was like, this is such an amazing book. So don't expect it to like be blowing your mind with twists and turns. It's just like a very dark concept. Okay, then we have The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This is definitely a little bit more atmospheric of a thriller and it has a lot of POVs. So there's like 5-ish POVs. It's all of these wedding guests go to this like remote island off the coast and someone gets murdered, and it's actually kind of like, you know, like a mystery thriller. So you're trying to figure out who the murderer is and who got murdered and all this kind of stuff. I actually feel like it was done very well and I gave it 5 stars. I couldn't put it down. I was very intrigued by it and I usually don't even like those books. So if you're someone that you think that you don't like those mystery thrillers, definitely try out The Guest List. Okay, going back to dark topics, we have The Night Swim by Megan Golden. This book is about rape culture and it talks about a rape case that is happening. And so you see both sides of the story and it is very dark, very graphic. And so definitely just be careful when you're going into it. I like learning about things like that. I like very dark subjects. So that's why I really like this one, but it's definitely not for everybody. And it is more crime thriller than it is twisty turny thriller. Okay, if you were a fan of Bird Box like me, it's one of my favorite books of all time. Mallory is definitely something that you need to pick up. So Mallory is part 2 of Bird Box and I loved it just as much as Bird Box. I was so glad to read more of that story, to know more of what was happening in that universe. Like, what do you do when you've been blind like your whole life? And it was just so good. There was still the survival aspect. I mean, you still felt blind the whole time you were reading it. Like, that's what I love about Bird Box and Mallory, is you feel like you're a character in that world while you're reading it. So if you like that, if you like horror, definitely pick it up. Okay, we have another YA thriller. This is Allegedly by Tiffany D. Jackson. I loved this book so much. It was so good. The audiobook was really good as well. It also has very dark topics, even for a YA thriller. This is about a 9-year-old black girl named Mary who allegedly killed a white baby. She was convicted and she went to like baby jail for years. And then she meets a boy while she's a teenager and gets pregnant herself. And it's about her like fighting for that baby because they're like the court is gonna be taking that baby away from her. So it was very good. I loved it. I was not expecting to love it so much. Next up, we have Playing Nice by J.P. Delaney. This is about these babies that get switched at birth and the parents don't realize it until 2 years later. So you've already been raising your child as if it was your child. And then these other parents are like, hey, yeah, we think we should like switch, like let's switch. And you're like, what? Like, how am I supposed to switch? But it's like, that's your kid also. So you're like, what? Anyway, very good. I just loved stories so much about like babies and like, I don't know what it is about it. Speaking of babies, so The Perfect Child is not exactly a baby, but it is about a child, and it's actually a foster child that these parents are like taking in, and they are adopting her. Well, they do end up having like a baby themselves, but anyway, this child is like really naughty and doing like really bad things most of the time to the mom, because the mom is at home with her all the time, and the dad is more like soft to her and doesn't really realize all the things that she's doing. So it's definitely like evil child type thriller, way better than Baby Teeth though. So if you didn't like Baby Teeth, definitely check out The Perfect Child. Okay, still speaking about foster kids, we have For Better and Worse by Margot Hunt. This one was also very good and definitely makes you like think a lot. I like thriller books that kind of have moral of the stories, and this was so original. So this is about a teacher at a school where a child says that he's been like touching him inappropriately, and then this mom, not the mom to this child, but a different mom, decides that she's gonna go murder this teacher. So what I really liked about it is like all of the detail that went into how she was going to like murder this teacher, and like literally explains the whole thing. So like you're like following her into this, and you're like, oh, okay, sure, yeah, let's do that. Let's murder him that way. So really liked that, but I also really liked the underlying like legal thriller concepts without it feeling like a legal thriller. It was definitely a domestic thriller. Okay, another horror thriller book is Suffer the Children by Craig DeLuey. Now this one, don't read this if you are like bothered by Corona, because this is literally about this virus outbreak that goes around the whole world and kills all of the kids, then brings them back to life as like zombie vampire things. I don't know. It's creepy. It's definitely more of a horror book, but there are thrilling aspects, so I wanted to include it in here. But if you like apocalyptic end of the world type thrillers, definitely check that one out. Okay, last but not least, this has been my favorite thriller of 2021. This is Every Value Break by Peter Swanson. Now, I can't tell you much about this book because I went in blind without knowing the synopsis, and I think that's why it was so good. If you like survival stories, if you like all the themes that I've talked about before in my thrillers, then you're definitely gonna like this one. It also has like a love triangle infidelity type theme. So it's about this girl who is about to get married to this guy, and during her bachelorette party, she sleeps with this other guy. Now, she didn't tell her almost husband to be, and then they like get married, go on their honeymoon, and this guy that she like cheated with is literally there. There is way more that happens in that book, but I can't tell you more. You just need to trust me, and you need to go get it, okay? You need to go get it. It's my favorite thriller of this year. Okay guys, that's it. Gosh, I feel like I've been standing here for forever. My tea is probably definitely cold. By the way, I just got this cup from Target, and it is beautiful. I got another one in gray also, but really love it. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. Definitely let me know down in a comment if there's any thrillers that you think that I should read. But that's it. I hope you guys go grab all the thrillers and have a good reading day. I'll see you in another video. Bye everyone.